I've played through this 3 times now, and each time I've had a different experience when playing. Some good, some bad, and some This review is playing from all 3 times so I can give you my honest thoughts. Since playing it through, they have done an update which was really annoying, but I'll talk about that later on. Buckle in, it's gonna get wild. Let's start off with the graphics. Now, the graphics are actually really impressive. I feel like they have captured stuff with the previous games. Mainly it reminds me of the SNES era, so I kind of really like that a lot. I felt like I could play a game that I couldn't when I was younger, and when looking at the graphics, then there are parts that made me think this actually could be a SNES game. For some reason, that gaming era of graphics are all really cool and look fantastic. Now, the game has an effect, and multiple ones. They have CRT effects, so if you kind of wanted to play it like the old games of yesteryear, then you obviously can, and I generally like that they put this in there. It gives it definitely a 90s feel, which fantastic, absolutely adored this. I actually did turn it off because I like seeing the color of the actual rangers. The sprites for when the characters came up are fantastic. I love the detail, I love the coloring, and I like seeing each character pop up at time. It gave it a retro feel. This was fantastic. I know it's hard to capture that feeling, but it felt like the old days of playing like Street Fighter and Streets of Rage, etc, etc. The special effects of each ranger works well and adds in something to the game. It really felt like you were beating the bad guys, and that's what you wanted. I do generally think the game looks good, and that's what people are going to like about it. Beating up putties and the tangas to see the classic putty teleportation effect adds to the game and made it special for me. And with the interaction of the levels, it felt like this was a solid part to the game. Part of it anyway. In all, I generally think that the game was really well done. So the story of the game is pretty decent. There's not much to it. It follows Rita going back to the 90s to destroy the Power Rangers. It's a solid story. It's a story that I generally thought would be really cool if we saw it back in the 90s. But generally, that is pretty much it. There's not really much to talk about it. The game kind of mixes all 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I kind of liked it through going through most of the story. It ran smoothly, and you could defeat different enemies. I kind of wish there were a little bit more because I think that would be kind of cool. Not from the Zord era, but generally from just beating like main bad guys around. Either way, a time story isn't too bad, and it opens up more to the game and for future DLC or projects if they wanted to. Let's talk quite a lot about the gameplay. Now, this is where the gameplay really annoyed me on many levels. The game breaks it down in different parts. You choose any of the core 5 rangers to begin with, and later on near the end of the game, you fight and gain the Green Ranger. He joins your side. The game is split into different parts. The main part of the game where you go through many different levels of Angel Grove, fighting as the Power Rangers. This is what I enjoyed the most. Next, you have the Zords running through a desert, which I have no idea that Angel Grove had such a big desert around. It's really confusing, and it's also kind of weird to put in there. Now, depending on which ranger you choose, that's the Dino Zord that you get. Pretty simple, I think. Pretty simple. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about, the Zords. As mentioned, you get your Zord. You go running through or flying through the deserts of Angel Grove. This normally results in 3 stages. The first mini-boss, destroying the time crystal, and then going on to the main boss of the level. The main bad guy that was really annoying to me was Guy because of the way that that level is designed and how the game treats you. His level really frustrated me. There was way too much going on when you're trying to beat him and not get hit. He would fill the screen with blasts, explosions, and bad guys, and it's harder to figure out what's going on. At one point, you could be literally attacking Guy. There'll be explosions all over the screen, or kind of lava busting from the floor, and then all of a sudden you'd be flung across to the other side of the map, and you'd be like wondering what's going on. Or his beam would hit you, and that's it, your Zord is completely destroyed and you have no idea what's going on, and you get flung back majority back to the beginning of the level. Now, I do get that you want to feel the Power Ranger experience, but when you're playing on your own and suddenly there are 1,000,001 things going on, it's hard to pay attention, and actually finishing the mission can get really frustrated if you just get absolutely pwned. If you get distracted or you can't see your Zord, then it could mean a game over, and it can be frustrating when you have full health. One thing that annoyed me was the fact that the beam weapons can take all your health or break it down to the point where one hit sends you back to the beginning of the level. With the Eye Guy and his final part before the Megazord fight, you have to jump around and dodge beams, but if you get caught in one, it will drag you around and wipe out your Zord. To me, this isn't a fun experience. I generally don't think it's a fun experience for anyone. I get the hardness of the game at times, but when you want something fun to go through, you don't want to be wiped out, so you have to start again. Another part was when you get to Tommy's stage and you have to reach and defeat the Dragon Zord. Reaching the Dragon Zord on my second attempt actually got to me, and I got bored due to the way the level was designed. I just gave up because it wasn't fun trying to get to that part again and again and again when the game sends you back to the beginning of the level. This took all the fun out of the game for me. I did find it that if you wanted to get to him quickly, just play as Kim and a Zord, because you can't be touched from the ground, so all you had to do was just dodge it up and down, left or right. But yeah, other Zords may struggle, but Kim was easy enough to be able to get from A to Z without any real trouble. There is another part in the game where you're fighting putties on a roller coaster. Now, this could be fun. You get to shoot them. Who doesn't like taking down putties like that? But I found out at times when they started to throw their kind of exploding pies, when you try to shoot them down, the hitbox wasn't big enough or it couldn't be used, and it would just end up taking health from you. This was really annoying when you're trying to get absolutely everything and not die. The Megazord battles were fun to some degree. Sometimes it felt like it was a bit repetitive, that you had to do the same sort of thing over and over, and it was just kind of, once you knew the pattern of each of the bad guys, you could literally dodge absolutely everything and not take that much damage. I do like the fact that if you're playing this in a kind of co-op with friends, if you get hit, it switches over to your friend, and it felt like you could keep doing this over and over and over again, and there wasn't any kind of consequences of you being defeated. Absolutely great part of the game though. You get the shark cycles, or at least bikes. And this was generally a fun thing to play, but there were things that were happening that did put me off. The game literally throws so much stuff at you again. You've got explosions, driving putties, putties hitting the screen. You've got to use your bikes to attack these kind of tanks that would have the time crystals inside them as well. And if there was tons of things being thrown at you, you were unable to kind of dodge. If there was suddenly an explosion in the middle of the screen, you could generally hit a roadblock. And this, I generally think, needs to be patched. We don't need to see 1001 explosions on the screen. We just need to know, there is the bad guy, let me defeat it. Having all of this sort of stuff is really overstimulating at times, and you wonder what's going on. If you hit a roadblock, that's it, game over. You lose a life and then suddenly that's it. You only have a few lives on this level. It did remind me of Road Rash, which was a fantastic thing. Generally, I would have had more of these levels than the Zord running. I would have preferred that. If there was an option just to have bikes, I think I'd do bike. One thing that zapped all the joy out of the game was when you're defeated and all your continues have been used, the game gets you to erase your gameplay. This is so annoying because you're putting your time into the game. Forcing you to delete your gameplay makes you think, do I risk it or do I forget about the game and not play it? Now, this annoyed me because I wanted to go back and play for what I worked for. What? All right, I was like, what? No more continues. What? That's it. You get no more continues. That I think is a massive downfall for this game. Like, that's bogus as massively shit. I know that Digital Eclipse now are actually going to patch this. They talked about it, but this should have been something that they caught straight away. Now, you could argue that this is how games are played. Once you lose all your continues, that's it, you start again. That's what retro games are. But majority of the time is, you may just want to go jump into a level and go, hey, I want to play this. If it's erased, then why? You lose all of it. When I saw this, my thoughts were, why am I doing this? I don't want to play it in case this happens again. Having the game forcing you to do this, it's not a good thing at all. It actually felt like I don't want to do this. Why? And it actually enraged me. Through my entire life when playing games, I have never seen a game say, hey, you're out of continues, erase this file. It felt like it was telling me off, saying, you're shit at this game, you're not allowed to. Now my main question is, if you finish the game and you have the Green Ranger unlocked, and then suddenly you play it through the beginning as Tommy, if you die and you lose all your continues, do you lose Tommy as well? Do you have to restart the game and gain him again? It's something that I don't want to risk. And putting that much time into the game, this makes it a bad game. I wouldn't want to risk it whatsoever, and I would just literally ditch the game. I did find some of the characters really sluggish at times, and this really kind of annoyed me. Some hits didn't land. A good example of this is that when you're fighting Robo Rita and you're hitting her energy attacks at her, I had to turn my back and then turn towards her, but when I was trying to knock her energy ball back while looking at her directly in her robotic face, I felt like my attacks didn't land, and it obviously hurt the character, and it restarts this. This is something that I think needs to be addressed and needs to be done quite quickly, because the game itself is at the moment. Now moving on to the voiceover, music and sound effects. The voice acting in this was a lot of fun. Hearing loads of different voice lines were pretty solid, and they suited it down to a T. There were some lines that were used over and over, but I'm not expecting that they have 1,001 different lines throughout the game, so you kind of like forgive it over time. Hearing certain phrases or attack lines actually made it for me. I thought it was generally pretty cool. I did laugh because when hearing Christina V, all I could hear was Ladybug. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I liked the music. It felt very retro, and it's something that I generally really liked. It's something that I could listen to when working or actually doing things. The Power Ranger theme tune when fighting in the Megazord was pretty cool, and it worked very well. It also reminded me of the Power Rangers Samurai type music as well, so it added to this, and I absolutely loved it. The effects for blasts, punches and everything else worked really, really well, and yeah, I generally like it. Either way, the voiceover music and effects were pretty decent, and I thought it all did really, really well. So the main question is the game fun? Yes and no. Yes to the fighting as the Rangers going through the game. When going through it on my own, it took me a while to get through the levels for being a single player, and I generally think that's absolutely fine. I like that it took me a while to fight the bad guys, but mainly this game is designed to play with people, which I think again is its downfall. Not everyone is going to play the game with a group of people. I'm not going to ring up my friends and say, hey, do you want to jump on Rita's Rewind? And they'll just go, nah, I'm done, I'm okay. And then I'm left to just playing this game on my own. And I think this is what really needed to be kind of looked into. I have friends, but they may not like this game. When I was playing it, there were some glitches that did put me off the game. Any of the Zord stuff, again, would have put me off the game because I didn't find that enjoyable whatsoever. The only fun Zord that I generally liked was Kimberly's, but when the game glitched out on my first run, I just got bored of it. I couldn't move, and it would literally like throw the game back because it wouldn't load the pterodactyl in, and that really did wind me up. There were many times when I was fighting the disruptor and it would throw me out of bounds that I couldn't generally get back into the middle to actually destroy the crystal. That generally did annoy me, and it felt like it was just a cop-out. If you actually got hit with the laser beams, it would wipe you out really, really quickly, and your shields don't do anything. Even if you picked up the shield token, your shields lasted maybe 3 seconds, and again, I didn't like that.
I didn't do fucking shit!
The last part of the Eye Guy boss battle, it wasn't needed and made the game unbearable in my eyes. After seeing other people play this as well, like they had the same reaction. They didn't like it whatsoever, and it was really frustrating. In the game, there are 4 difficulties. Easy, which gives you pretty much easy bad guys, unlimited continues. Normal, which gives you normal enemies and 10 continues. And hard, which gives you hard enemies and 5 continues. And I'm guessing Headache would literally give you hard enemies but no continues, which again is fair for that one. But when you're playing the game on normal, it generally feels like it's on hard. I could put it on easy, but then I don't want to do that. I want to play the game with a bit of challenge. I don't want easy bad guys that could take one punch and then they would go down. I generally really wanted a little bit of a challenge, and I thought normal would do that. One of the biggest gripes in this game I generally thought was the fact that you got no health when you're in your Zord. You get health as a ranger, which is fine, but this is the one thing that needed to happen, because not many people can do a solo run and be like, oh, I've got like 1 life to do this. your lives get taken really, really quickly, and your continues do as well. So I think adding some health into this game would have been fine for the Zords, because again, there are certain parts where you need it, and you're not going to be able to defeat a time disruptor and then come out unscathed majority of the time. There should be a setting where the game recognizes that you're on your own and kind of adjusts the game accordingly, as I mentioned earlier before. This game was made for the older fans. There is no doubt in this whatsoever. There are references everywhere. But for anyone playing it that just wants a easy beat 'em up game, I generally think that this would be fun to some degree, but not at the same time. I would have preferred more ranger levels than Zord stuff straight away. Personally, to me, this game could have been one of the best games out there. With going over the game at least 2 more times, I got a different reaction every single time. And yeah, I just thought, With bringing this video to an end, I do think the game needs more polish to become one of the best Power Ranger games out there. I know that Digital Eclipse isn't all to blame for little things in the game. I do think that Hasbro probably told them to rush it and get the game out there for the end of the year, because it's the financial end of year. My thoughts on the game when playing on day of release was something of joy and excitement, but when streaming it, I just lost all of that when certain things happened. To me, the Zord matches are meant to be fun, but I couldn't stand them. The way that they are laid out and played, to me, it made the game barely playable, and I just wanted them to be over or not part of the game. The fighting of putties at times became overwhelming, but once you get into the rhythm, then you're okay. I do think that the game needed work still, and at the moment the game still isn't finished. I much would have preferred that all of the formats were delayed till they were finished and fixed. There isn't much to say about it, but I do regret buying it at the price. Paying £30 for a game that hasn't been properly polished is just to me. These things could have been fixed before launch. Personally, I generally would wait for the game to have more updates and fixes and then jump into it. I wouldn't pay the full price, but generally if it's discounted, go for it. I do think that this game could be literally a one and done, which is horrible. There might be some replayability, but at the moment people would just finish it, get the Green Ranger, play for him, and then that's it. The game dies straight away. I can see the game being played for video content for Ranger YouTubers, but unless DLC comes out, then I don't see many people playing this for a very long time. With all these minor bugs, then I would imagine to a few people it's really off-putting and can make them never want to play again. The devs are fixing this, which I generally think is fantastic. I generally do want DLC to come out, and that's what I'm really hoping. But what are your thoughts on Rita's Rewind? Do you agree with what I've mentioned? Are you having fun with it? Let me know down below in the comments and let's discuss. And while you're down there, like and subscribe, check out the Patreon and the channel memberships, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimona Cat. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。